Hi, today I would like to teach you how to find the dimensions of a right cylinder given some ambiguous information. So it says the radius of this cylinder is going to be 3 inches more than the height. And it also tells us the volume of the cylinder is going to be 16 pi cubic meters. So in terms of my picture, we have a radius and we're going to have a height. Right? Remember, the height is going to be defined as the, height. Okay, so let's call this R, let's call this H. Now what it tells us, it says that the radius is going to be 3 inches more than the height. So what that means is that whatever the height is, you're just going to add 3 to it, right? So in other words, I can, instead of writing this as the radius, maybe what I'll do is I'll write 3 plus H, because whatever the height is, you're going to add 3 to it to find the radius, all right? Then the next thing is it tells us the volume. So I'm really thinking, okay, well, what's the point of this? Is the volume related somehow to the radius of the cylinder and the height? And of course it is. The volume of a right circular cylinder is going to be equal to pi times r squared times height, meaning the radius squared. So all we're going to do now is kind of substitute some things. So this is 16 pi that told that's what the radius was. That's what the volume was. And that's then going to be equal to pi times the radius squared, which is 3 plus h squared, times then the height, which I just left as h. Now from here you can cancel some things, and the pi's just go bye-bye. And this is going to, because you can divide by pi on both sides. So this is just going to be 16 times 3 plus h squared times h. Now there's a couple of ways you can solve this, all right? If you don't have the utility of a calculator, what you can do is you can, FOIL this out. And then what you can do is you can basically get something in the form of ax cubed plus bx squared. Instead of x, though, it's going to be your h because that's your variable. But then you can follow, factoring techniques for the cubic functions. And if you want, just type in, there's several techniques depending upon the problem. One technique you might have to use is the rational zero theorem. So if you want to know how to use that on this problem, all you simply have to do is just type in Glaser Tutoring, Google. All right, we'll come up and just type in rational zero theorem. And watch one of those videos where I literally walk you through it step by step. Or you might not need to use the rational zero theorem, in which case then you can just search kind of, factoring cubic functions. Again, Glaser Tutoring Company, factoring cubic functions. All right. So in this problem, though, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the utility of a calculator because you should have one, all right, for this problem. So the way to do this now is going to be to subtract 16 from both sides. All right, so subtract 16 from both sides. So there's going to be 0 then equals 3 plus h, and I'm not even going to manipulate anything. I'm going to leave it literally just how I see it, okay? So I have this function, and the reason why I set it equal to 0 is because now when I graph this thing, all I want to do is find the value of h, or in other words, the x in the problem, that produces an overall value of 0 for the function. In other words, just find the location where it crosses the x-axis. That's the goal. So plug this on in, right? So open parentheses, do 3 plus x. I know it's an h in the thing, but, it doesn't, x or h, it doesn't make a difference. Multiply that then by x, and then minus 16, and hit graph. And you see here, it crosses the x-axis right here at 1. Okay, now there might be more values than that. So what you can do is you can use your table, right? Just see what happens, Like you see how this is kind of trailing, the y is getting bigger and bigger as the x is getting bigger and bigger. So most likely it doesn't cross the x-axis again. And if you look over here, it's not very promising either, right? This looks like it's going to negative infinity. So the utility of the table here, it actually tells you the value, right? When x is 1, y is 0, so that's fine and dandy. But sometimes what happens if the numbers don't work out that nice? What you can do is you can use the calc function. Okay, so hit second trace, that'll bring up the calculate function, and then scroll down to number 2 and hit enter. So what you're going to do is you're going to move the cursor to the left bound of the intersection point. So it's going to intersect at 1, so just leave it like 0.15. That's fine, just to the left, right? A little less than. I wish they said x less than. Something like that would have been nice, but it doesn't make a difference. Right bound. Here I am, like I actually know how to program a calculator. It's always easy to criticize from the sidelines. So maybe I shouldn't have said that. I love the way they do it, actually. Hey, you ever notice that, especially with like sports fans, right? Sitting on the sidelines or whatever, watching from TV, and they're yelling at the players like they know what to do. And you know that if any one of them get out there on the field or on the court, they would have their beep handed to them, right? They would look pathetic out there, but yet they think they know what they're talking about. Yes, that's what I just did. So let me not do that. Anyway, select the right bound, hit enter, and then you're going to guess. So let's go back down. Somewhere around this, as long as you're close to 1, there you go. X is equal to 1 when Y is equal to 0. So that's the nice part. It's going to tell you how to do it. So basically, H should be equal to 1. Now what you can do is you can just check it, right? Plug in 1 for this function and see if it works out to be 0, which it will. Okay. Now, we know the height. So the height is equal to 1. And if the radius was 3 inches more than the height, well, guess what the radius has to be? It has to be, what? Why did I write 4 here? I have no idea. What? Height is 1. Radius is 4. There you go. I was getting ahead of myself. Sometimes I think ahead where I got to go. But don't do that too early, because obviously you'll wind up getting it wrong, just like I almost did. So in any case, this is the radius, this is the height, and that should work out to be true, right? So the volume here is going to be equal to pi times the radius, which is 4 squared, times then the height, which is 1. So what does that work out to be? This works out to be 16 pi. Oh, wait, that's what they told us it should be. Exactly. Guys, thanks so very much for tuning in. All right, if this helped you out at all, please like and subscribe if you can. Means the world to us, it really does. And check out our channel, because we have thousands of solved problems out there. All right, we'd love to help you through math, but not only math, we got chemistry and physics as well. We got a whole lot of stuff coming. All right, best way to do well on your tests is to practice. Don't just sit there and read notes, please. That's like the worst. It's the absolute worst thing, unless you're studying a particular subject where you're memorizing stuff or have to memorize stuff. In a mathematics, chemistry, physics, or applied science, it's really the worst way to study. You got to do practice problems. All right. So check out the channel, take a look at some of the videos, and try to do the problem. And if you struggle with it, just use the video to help you out. I promise you that's the best way to do it, and the fastest way. Take care.